We still have John McMullen joining us on the Boardwalk Honda hotline on 97.3 ESPN. Follow him on Twitter at JFMcMullen. John, I'll ask you, what is your beverage of choice for 4th of July?
Like every day, a beer. But I'm not one of those annoying IPA people. Just, if you're a little overweight like me, you got to go with a light beer and whatever's on sale. Coors Light, Bud Light, Miller Light, it's all the same to me.
Well, we had a guy text in earlier. He said that he's all about the Miller Light. He's all about the High Life. So,
I would say I would have to think. There's no difference, really. There really isn't. And there's always one goal, so it doesn't matter how you get it.
Well, John, one of the reasons why I'm glad you're on with me today is not to ask you about beer, but to ask you. So, there was a conversation that was had earlier this week about the NBA and the NFL. I know you and Mike talked a little bit about the money this week, but I want to ask you about something a little bit else, which is because you covered the NBA, because you covered the NFL, I want to know from you, Adrian Wojnarowski and Brian Windhorst had a conversation earlier this week, and they talked about the fact that for the NBA, they never really wanted the Supermax. The owners want is the franchise tag, the NFL's franchise tag in the NBA. From your perspective, John, looking at the way the NBA is, would the franchise tag actually work as it's applied in the NFL to the NBA?
Yeah, I think it could work. It's difficult to get. I mean, from a player's perspective, it certainly limits free agency for superstar players, and in theory, kind of limits their value. But you see NFL players who would be eligible for the franchise tag or have it placed upon them. It's not like they're not making significant sums of money. It does lower the ceiling a little bit from their perspective. What it does is helps create parity, which I think is important for the NFL. Now, some people have correctly pointed out, look, there's been a super team in the NFL for a very long time, and that's the New England Patriots, which is true, and that's fair to point out. But they've also done it in a lot of different ways over the years, and obviously it stems, the two constants are the coach and the quarterback, but they've had a lot of different versions, a lot of different strengths, a lot of different weaknesses. So, I mean, from their perspective, it's not just about accruing the best players. It really has been about being better than other organizations as far as building strategy, building scheme, building roster. And I think from that standpoint, it makes it more compelling. I think in the NBA, look, everybody gets excited during free agency. It's an exciting time with all the movement. And then you get to the regular season, and everybody's like, nobody has a chance. There's 2 or 3 teams that have a chance. If Kawhi Leonard ends up signing with the Lakers instead of the Raptors, the Lakers are going to be significant favorites to win the NBA title before everything even starts. And if they don't suffer an injury, they're going to win the NBA title. I don't find that exciting, personally. Other people would argue differently. I think the NBA could use more parity. I think it would create more excitement, and a franchise tag would help do that. But they have their own version. I mean, you can offer an extra year, which in the NBA is significant money, and you've seen players turn that down to go build super teams.
Yeah, we've seen multiple players turn it down, John, and it's not just to build super teams, but Kawhi turned it down from the Spurs just to leave San Antonio.
Yeah, and there's the NBA system is broken. I really do believe that from as I said, from a team building standpoint, from a parity standpoint, from creating more competition, I think it's broken. And part of the reason is because of the power the players have. So it depends what kind of fence you're on. If you're a player, you want that power. You want to be able to get the best situation, the most money, whatever your goal might be, the more power you have, the easier it is to get that on the other side of the fence. And this is where I talk about it all the times with leagues, and I usually talk about it in the realm of analytics, and you probably heard me say it, Josh, where people crunch numbers, whether it's tanking in the NBA, whether it's the shift in baseball and not playing station-to-station baseball, changing the game, whether it's the three-point shot in basketball. It's the goal of an organization to win under the rules that are placed upon them. But from the sports perspective, their goal is to be entertaining to the fan base. And I think from the NBA standpoint, if you create more parity, if more teams are involved in the championship discussion, I think ultimately that's better for the fan base. And if they have to create rules to implement a better system, that's what they should do, and that's what they should fight for.
Couldn't I also argue, John, that the franchise tag could benefit the players in the fact that because it's only a one-year deal, it doesn't really steal away their long-term ability to go out into the market after maybe a year of a franchise tag and still get their money in a long-term deal?
Well, that depends on the individual and that individual's goal. As I said, I mean, there's some people that want long-term security. There's some people that want to play in a certain city or for a certain organization. There's some that want championships. There's some that want the most money. So I think that depends on the individual. But anybody, I mean, look, players in the NFL don't like having the franchise tag placed on them. Make no mistake about that. They don't like it. But at the end of the day, are you really going to feel sorry for them? You're getting the average of the top 5 players paid at the position. It's not like you're getting hurt. It's not like, it's a rule put in place to make sure teams can keep their best players in the worst case scenario. And that helps create parity. And that's why it's there. It's not there to screw the players.
Right.
It's there to help ensure parity, which has been a big part of the NFL's goal since the days of Pete Rozelle. And I think that one word, more than anything else, is why the NFL is the most popular sport in the country. Almost every team thinks they have a chance. When we get to training camp later this month, almost every team can make an argument, well, if we just get into the playoffs, you never know what can happen.
Sure.
That just doesn't exist in the other sports.
And the other thing, John McMullen joining me on the Boardwalk Honda Hotline on 97.3 ESPN. Josh, I think Hunter Brody covering for Mike Gill on the Sports Bash. You check out all of John's work at 97.3 ESPN.com. Covers the Eagles in the NFL and covered the NBA for a long time as well. You know, John, the other thing is that, I think the fans, because, fans are fans. Fan is short for fanatic. They don't always think straight. And one of the problems is that fans think, oh, the player wants the money. But the reality, John, is you and I, and Hunter even knows, is that, let's be realistic. If you're a player and you go play in Los Angeles or you go play in New York, you're losing a huge chunk of your paycheck to that state's government. Whereas if you played in Texas or Florida, you don't lose that chunk of money. So at the end of the day, the fans think it's always about the money, but there's a lot of players who will choose destinations that could actually lose them money.
Oh, sure. It happens all the time. You've seen, and you mentioned high state taxes, California, New York, many states really around the country, Illinois, any blue state, and you mentioned Florida and Texas. Those two states particularly, if they'd get every free agent if it was just about the money. I mean, because when you're making that kind of money and they cut out the taxes they do in certain states, that's a significant difference. So if you look at LeBron James last year, Josh, Sixer fans were getting excited there at the very end. And I was on every day with Mike saying, he's going to the Lakers, he's going to the Lakers.
I was too, John. They weren't listening to us.
And from his perspective, it had nothing to do with the championship. It had nothing to do with the marquee nature of the organization, even though it exists. He wanted his brand in Los Angeles. He has further aspirations as far as Hollywood, as far as the entertainment industry. So, again, when we talk about the individual, that was LeBron James. That's what he wanted. That's why he's in Los Angeles. It differs Jimmy Butler from the Sixers. Whether you believe Woj or you believe the team, the Sixers, saying they offered him a 5-year max deal, it doesn't matter. He wanted to play in Miami for obvious reasons. Taxes help, but South Beach helps as well.
Absolutely.
So it really does come down to the individual.
Follow him on Twitter at JF McMullen. John McMullen joining us instead of 4 o'clock at 2:30 because we'll be off the air at 3:30 today. But John covers the Eagles and the NFL for 97.3 ESPN.com. Again on Twitter at JF McMullen. John, happy 4th of July.
You too, guys. Happy 4th. Happy Independence Day. And to all the listeners as well.